We'll call to order and get going here. So the vision of our Milton School District is that we believe in opportunities, achievement, and community for all. And the mission to support that vision is that the School District of Milton, in partnership with the community, prepare our students for achievement and lifetime readiness by providing opportunities for all. All right, having said that, we will call to order the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, May 28th. In lieu of Monday, obviously, with the holiday. And please join me in a salute to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Mr. Gauman, are you aware of any changes we need to make to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Rick's motion is seconded by Jen to approve our agenda as it appears. Questions from anyone? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Minutes are included from the previous meeting in board docs.
I'll move to approve the minutes for the regular meeting held on May 13th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Jen's motion seconded by Rick to approve our previous meeting minutes. Does anyone have questions on those? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Vouchers follow.
I'll move to approve general checking account vouchers totaling $805,360.68 as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you. John's motion is seconded by Annette to approve our general checking account vouchers in the amount that he enumerated. Does anyone have questions on the vouchers? And all that would be in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The vouchers are approved. Folks, would you pass that to Marcy, filling in for Carly? That's our meeting sign up for public comment, and we have no one signing up or indicating they wanted to speak to us, so we will roll through that to superintendent update. The A piece is Red Hawk highlights. Rich.
With this being the second board meeting of the month, our administrators will come to the podium and highlight some end of the year things that are happening in our schools and departments.
At the elementary level, we have been digging into our family engagement survey data, and we noticed one really common celebration across all of our elementary schools, and that was very high marks from our families about the relationships between our students and our teachers. And so we know we do a lot of work with Second Step and Responsive Classroom, and we just know about the power of relationships. So we are excited to see an increase in all of our schools in that area. Last week, all of our elementary students got to go to Milton High School and see our Red Hawk show choirs perform, and that's always a big highlight. And this coming Friday, the middle school jazz band is coming around to all of our schools, and of course, our graduate honor march, where the grads come back to their elementary school. So these types of traditions in Milton are a really big deal. I should say the pizza gardens, that FFA students come out and help plant pizza gardens with our kindergarten students too. So those connections are one of the really cool things about the opportunities that we have in Milton and the way we build community. So we'd like to celebrate that. And shifting gears in the summer school world, I want to give a shout out to all of our staff that are involved in teaching summer school. We have a great summer planned for this year. I'll give a more formal update in June. I typically do if the board still wants that. But I will say that just for anyone listening and for the people in the room, most of our classes are full, but we do have space in some classes, and anyone interested can reach out to me or to Sarah Olson. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Some fun highlights from Milton Middle School. We're pretty excited about our iReady results, specifically in the area of reading. Our goal is always to grow the green and shrink the red, and we certainly did that. That's part of our school-wide goal. We built something in this year doing an iReady incentive in both the areas of reading and math for any improved scores. And in the world of middle schoolers, when it comes to decision making, there was a cart of choices with trinkets that had about a 12-cent value each, or there was an opportunity to win a $25 gift card to Quick Trip. And almost every student picked one of the trinkets. So that kind of explains where our students are at certain times, and that's also why we love them. 8th graders went on a choice field trip. There were 4 locations in the middle of May. They could go to American Family Field, the Chazen Art Museum, the Science Museum, and then the Art Museum in Milwaukee. So 4 trips in one day. That was a very successful experience. We had our transition event where we welcomed our current 6th grade students over to the middle school for an evening with our current 7th graders, outside activities, and that went well. This week is science dissection really kicking up in 8th grade. So some kids really love that, and some are squirmy with the smells and sights of dissection. So that ticks up at this time of year. And then just a plug for our Unity track meeting, our meet tomorrow. That was rescheduled from last Friday, and that is here at the high school track from 1:50 to 2:15 tomorrow. Come on out if you're able to. Thank you.
Hello, I'm giving the update for Northside because Mr. Lyons can't be here tonight. So these are his reports. Spring iReady diagnostic results were very promising, especially in ELA, as Northside's school-wide focus was on building vocabulary. All grade levels continue to experience high achievement and growth according to the spring results, so that's wonderful. Shout out to Mr. Ide and Mr. Brew for organizing the track and field events this year. They had great weather for all grades, and Northside staff were grateful to the high school hosting, as well as some of their students in their gym classes for volunteering. There was excellent sportsmanship on display as our kids competed against each other for bragging rights on the relay race, tug of war, and all around winner cookie events. Very fun day. Thank you.
All right, for the high school, it is the end of the year, and obviously it's always a very busy time of the year. We, as you heard from the other schools, we're sending a lot of students to other schools for the district, whether it's like to the pizza gardens or other events. I know that they're very active. We're excited about our spring sports season. A couple of notes of note here. Softball recently we're conference champions. We're very proud of them. In the track, we have 3 individuals that are moving on to state competition. Ethan Mitchell, Ty Sheridan, and Caitlin Jingjam. They did a great job this year. There's actually 4 school records that were broken this year, which is a record for number of school records broken track and field. So very excited for those kids. The Discover Democracy trip returned this last weekend. They were spending a week in Washington, D.C. Pat Galk and his team. Kim Nelm, Sarah Brechtel, and Renee Steve were the staff that took the Discover Democracy kids They had several dozen interviews and were eager to see the reports that came back from them as they're working on those. One slight diversion to Detroit on the flight home, but all arrived safely, just a little bit late. And then obviously we have the big event coming up is graduation. The gym is getting set. It is this coming Sunday at 2 p.m. In the field house. Once again, all board members are invited to attend. You're welcome to stop if you want to be there around 1 o'clock to start pre-graduates and try to have a picture about 1:15. So excited to help about 260 graduates walk across the stage and the next stage of life.
One thing that I'd like to mention, we know that there was some storm damage across the city of Milton from Sunday. We had some slight damage on our school grounds. We're very fortunate and pleased that there were no injuries that we've at least heard of around the city with the high winds. And no structural damage to any of our facilities. There were a few trees and limbs down in a few spots. I think that the spot that got hit the most was kind of on the north and west side of the high school in that open area. There were a couple of trees and larger branches down in that area. At Central Park, the bleachers at Central Park got blown out of place, but we weren't damaged and were easily replaced. And then a couple of fences to baseball and softball fields that got knocked down, but we were able to get all of those repairs taken place. So thanks to Stephen Shantz and our building and grounds crew, our principals, and everyone who was involved in the cleanup after the storm.
Rich, when is the board gonna have a chance to see this iReady results that we've heard about?
We are finishing up our community survey, and then we'll have both our survey results and our iReady and SEL results. We'll have to get a date set on that, but I think that last summer we did that the first Monday in August. We won't have like forward and report card data. That doesn't come until November or so. And sometimes we don't have ACT and AP data, so that we do an additional data dive in the fall once we have all of that data. One of the things that I was going to share when we're at our, what we can talk about now is that I was going to share at our committee and board meetings is whether the board would want to just roll the iReady, SEL, and survey data into a regular board meeting at one of our summer upcoming board meetings, rather than looking for a separate time.
Made a night with a light agenda that night.
That's work. I guess that's what I prefer.
Yeah.
I forgot, we're all gonna be here.
Right.
I'll send an email out to the board with some possible dates. I know that some of our administrators have some vacation time scheduled during the summer, so I want it to be a time when all or most of our administrators are going to be able to be there. So I'll send an email out to the board with some possible already scheduled board meeting dates to see what we'll do.
Great. All right, any questions for Rich on our admin update? All right, the second part of the superintendent update is our community focus group update, and we didn't speak a lot ahead of time, but I guess maybe I would comment just a little bit and then I'll let Rich share that. We had that this past Wednesday night, right? Is that this past week? We had the first of our community focus groups, and it was kind of the launch meeting was kind of big picture items, and I did a little bit of a welcome to the group, and then Rich had a piece, and Ross had sort of the main digestion of all the numbers and stuff relative to state public school funding and trying to get folks up to a base level of understanding of that. And thank you to the fellow board members. I think John, Ed, Rick were able to attend, so thanks for that. We had a nice turnout, 30-some folks in the room. Nice cross-section of the community. I met some folks that I didn't know. I saw some familiar faces, so that was really, really good. So I don't know, Rich, if you want to capture what you said, and then maybe Ross can piggyback on that.
I'd share a couple highlights. As Joe shared, I think there was 35 to 40 people in attendance. We had it here in this room. I was really pleased with the turnout. It was the first of 3 sessions, so we had follow-ups on June 12th and June 26th. At the session on this past Wednesday, the main topic was looking at the state's system for funding public schools. There was some great, Ross put together a great presentation. There were some really good dialogue and questions from community members that were in attendance. I know there were a few community members that are planning to attend but weren't available at this one, so we reinforced that folks are invited to attend any of the 3 if they're able. We did record the session, and we will do the same for the 2 follow-up sessions, and have those available on our district's YouTube channel. The second session on June 12th, the main focus is how that state funding system impacts our local districts. So what impact does it have on our recent and current budgets and on our budget forecast moving forward, and what options do we have, because we do anticipate a budget shortfall a couple of years down the road, and we have a $2.5 million non-recurring referendum that will be expiring, and our projections are for pretty significant budget shortfalls once that expires. So a large part of by the end of the second session into the third session is around what are some different options as we approach those new budget deficits. And I don't know, Ross, if you have things to add?
Hello. I think Rich covered the outline of the next couple of sessions pretty well. I just wanted to say I appreciated the dialogue and the back and forth we created on Wednesday, and I'm looking forward to continuing that in the next session too. I thought there were a lot of great questions, and again, I like that stuff, so appreciate it.
There's some good positive feedback from folks that were in attendance. Thank you.
Yeah, I would echo that. I had some
Invitation.
share that with me too, that Rich and Ross did a wonderful job in my view, and in the view of some other folks too, because they were all very appreciative of sort of the very easy to understand format of some really complex topics. So hats off to both of you, and I heard the same from some community folks. So
Yeah, I just want to share one more thing, is that if people didn't take part in that first one, whether they were initially part of the group or not, and we sent out over 100 invitations to be part of focus group, and anyone that is interested, they are open meetings, so anyone in the public can attend. And kind of the couple key takeaways from the session that we had were that the state's funding for public schools has not kept pace with inflation and has fallen considerably below inflation, and that has put our district and districts across the state in a position where there's more reliance on local funding for schools than there used to be. And that system has really created a system of have and have not school districts across the state, where districts that are able to get that local funding are able to offer opportunities and have the resources for students that other districts are not able to have. So it's something that we'll be diving in a little bit more deeply to, but we really appreciate everyone that's been part of that process.
indeed, so more to come. So thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we will move on. 3 is an update. It says school board legal workshop update. I guess I can recap that. So we had a busy week last week because we started on Monday night with a meeting of the board and invited in Shana Lewis, our legal counsel that guides us on lots of school-related topics in the legal world, and preceded that with a little bit of a parliamentary procedure refresher, maybe might be the way to say it. And I had invited in our FFA chapter students that have a parliamentary procedure team. They have a chance in their leadership development events with that team to compete, and have done so through the spring here. So when I reached out, they were very eager to come and show us what they do in a competition format of sorts. The kids showed up in official dress and did a really nice job for about 11 or 12 minutes of going through some very compunctual parliamentary procedure things, making a motion and setting it on the table and some of those kinds of things. So I thank them for that, and they did a super nice job. And then we had Shana go through a PowerPoint of sorts that some of us have seen a couple of times, and newer board members maybe not, but she does a really nice job of, in a matter-of-fact way, outlining the roles and responsibilities that school board members have, and maybe contrasting that to some of the roles and responsibilities that administration has, so that we can all, and I would say personally, having seen it a number of times, I always gain new insight or some reinforcement of things that I thought I knew, but at any rate, Shana does a really nice job of walking through some of that responsibilities for the board members. So we spent about an hour and a half doing that. Coincidentally, we didn't, because of a commitment that Shana had, we curtailed it just a little bit, and we have part 2 coming up here in another week or so. We're going to invite her back at a chance to maybe finish her presentation and get to a couple things that she didn't quite get to, but all in all, a nice chance to visit with her and get an update on some of those things. So anybody else had any thoughts? That's kind of what I captured anyways.
No extra thoughts, just I want to back you up on that. The student part was awesome. That was so amazing to have there and watch them do what they do really well. So kudos, thank you for bringing them, and Jeremy, thanks for whatever you did to get them here. And
yeah,
it was really cool. It was really awesome.
We've got a lot of talented kids. It's fun to see them. Okay, we'll roll past that, and you can stay on the floor because 4 is a tech committee meeting update, and you share with the folks what we've been working on.
Yeah, so I'll roll through it. I'm gonna just open up with it's informational only, so there's no decision made tonight. Fairly lengthy discussion that happened during our May 13th meeting where Tracy, Ed, and Annette were there. And I would also invite Ross and Jeremy and Neil up if anybody has any questions. It's kind of multiple facets here. At the end, the only agenda item on the docket that day was the discussion about the high school is going to do a beta test of Chromebooks and versus the MacBooks, which everybody's using here at the high school level. They gave a very nice presentation talking about their desire and why they want to try this. I'm going to do my best to summarize it. In the last year or so, they identified, the high schools identified a couple of things. The cost of repair has increased. These newer machines that we are all on right now are a little bit more fragile and a little bit more expensive to repair. So the cost to our parents and our family groups is a little bit more expensive when it comes to repair. The identification that Chrome is one of the more popular products and one of the things that is being used widely in the high school leads to the logical conclusion of what they're saying is why not just use Chrome if we don't use any of the other great features of this device, which is a logical assumption. And then also the ability to, the best way that I can say is to focus the students. So the Chromebook has a little more power to the, contain a student what they can do. They can get distracted more on a MacBook. And I'll let you guys, I want to leave the verbiage up to you, not me. So that was the presentation that was brought to us. The term right sizing was, I believe, what they're using to label the whole process. And over the course of last year, they did some studying. We met with some focus groups of students and teachers and all the different demographics in the high school to kind of work on the device and what it would be. They went through a myriad of devices, landing on the Chromebook. And for financial reasons, or for financial numbers, Chromebook is going to run between $250 and $300, and a MacBook is going to run between $750 and $800. With the caveat that the MacBook has a resale value, and the Chromebook does not. And with that, we had this wonderful, healthy discussion. And again, I would invite anybody questions on your side. And Rich had asked us at the end of the meeting and say, hey, if you have questions about this, please email Rich with your questions and concerns. This is going to be a year-long role. So it's not a one and done, but it is also important as well. That's a lot to take in. I'm going to pause and see if anybody has any questions.
If other people want to share something while they're coming up, I want to just reinforce one thing that Ed said, that it's not a decision in the school board tonight, but it will be a decision probably in November or December. And the reason that the decision will be taking place then is that our current leases for our devices have 1 year left. So we have leases for a coming year. So it's really a decision around, the decision will be around what are we going to do when the current leases expire. So the pilot with the Chromebooks will be with the 9th graders for this coming year, so that we get an idea of what other options are to the MacBooks, and then we can bring that information, feedback from the pilot that's happening this fall to the board, so that the board can make an informed decision when we get to that time. But we wouldn't be looking at making wholesale changes until maybe the 25-26 school year.
Can I ask for clarity on that? And maybe Ross can answer this too. Is it truly a board decision, depending on the way you finance it, if you're going to purchase Chromebooks for 1 year at a time? Is that below our limit of?
It's something we would bring to you as options based on whatever financing plans come forward. If we have a leasing path to do this, if this was what is amenable to students and the board after the pilot goes through, we bring that forward. It's not set in stone at this point.
Okay. So there's a few, depending on what they decide to do and the way they decide to do it, could come to us and may not. Mm-hmm. I mean, is there any avenue where it would not?
We would not make a wholesale decision around device selection without involving the board. I thought you were talking specifically about the financing piece.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, I separated those two things in my head, so.
Yeah. Thank you, Ross.
Yep.
Well, how are the Chromebooks for the 9th graders then being paid for?
How are we gonna be paid for?
Yeah.
Sure. So what we have always done with our Apple devices is kind of leverage the old device to get into the new device. So our plan for the pilot right now is to sell a portion of the senior laptops that are gonna get turned in tomorrow. And that will offset most of the cost of the Chromebook pilot. That way, when the lease comes due a year from now, we can, again, make a wholesale change for the high school altogether, or kind of see what that brings, see what comes out of that.
So by most, do you mean like talking 90%?
If I had to guess, I'd say 60 to 70%. We had some tech budget savings for some internet projects that's gonna go toward it. I believe potentially some high school budget is gonna go toward it. So we're trying to find the pieces to make it work.
It is covered for a year of this year using existing dollars. We're not dipping into any internal resources or fund balance.
What's the process like to sell those laptops next week or whenever it happens? Like, what does that go out to bid?
Yes.
Or how does that work?
Yeah, we would solicit bids from we probably have a dozen companies who want to buy back our stuff. Traditionally, we partner with Diamond Assets because they've offered a really strong bid. We've also done some business with Second Life Mac, Tech to School. We typically get 4, 5, 6 bids and then make a selection.
If we are looking at this with some scrutiny in November, I thought was thrown out there. So the Chromebooks are new in September for the students. Will we be able to draw any conclusions? I mean, I'm assuming they're gonna run side by side with the other classes have these MacBooks, so we're gonna have a compare and contrast. But we've got a 3-year-old device versus a new device, different operating systems. Is it apples to apples or is it two?
It's apples to Chromebooks.
That's the wrong fruit. Yeah. Is it lemons to lemons or is it the wrong fruit? I'm sorry with that. But what I'm saying is 2 months old, I would assume the devices wouldn't have breakage and repair and some of the things that we're trying to maybe look at. Is that fair?
A lot of these, we're gonna be looking at how the teachers are using them in the classroom.
Okay.
And so we'll be getting a lot of feedback, yes, from students' experience, that is gonna be important. A lot of it from the staff and how they are using them in the classroom, how they are serving the purpose of their instructional goals in the classroom, how are those tools serving that for, and you can compare those with those.
Yeah, so when Ab was speaking, it sounded like the durability / repairability of the MacBook is putting it under the focus a little bit, but is the functionality in the classroom been good?
Yes, the purpose of this pilot is mostly to see how we're using them in the classroom. So there's the other component, there's financial, there's the durability, those are important components, obviously. We're gonna be taking a look at, part of this pilot is how are we achieving our goals in the classroom and using it as the learning tool, and how does it compare with the use of Mac.
Okay.
I understand the reason to beta this for 1 year. What about those classes where you have freshmen mixed in with sophomores and juniors and seniors? Like now you've got 2 different devices. What will the teachers use? And will that slow down the
Teachers are still gonna have their MacBooks, except we talked a lot about that, and we'll be supporting the staff through that. Whereas over 90% of the operations that we're finding that staff uses on a Chrome, that should be relatively easy. And we picked the 9th grade class because that's the highest percentage of class where it's mostly just 9th graders. There will be some mixed classes, obviously, and so we'll be able to work through that as well.
Yeah, and we will hold on to some MacBooks, so if there's something that a student needs to do on a MacBook, that will be available. And those are the kind of things we're trying to suss out with this process.
Right.
What do we need the MacBooks for? What percentage of the schoolwork can be replaced with just Mac?
In the meeting, I think that was one of the things that I mentioned, just for the rest of the board here is, I think the logic of using the freshman makes sense because of the demographic is highly contained. But I also would really value the opinion of a student who's been on both. And I don't know if there's a way to accomplish that, but that to me, I do think that the student voice is super important. And having a big number of people who haven't been on both, to me, I'd like to hear both sides. So anything you can do to value that would be awesome.
Yep, I think that's in the back of our mind as we proceed. When we discuss the various options for how we're going to pilot this, the question basically came down to pick your blind spot. What's going to give you the best information and what aren't you going to know? And the various configurations, slice down the middle, This class, that class, opt-in, all the cleanest way to do it, especially given the fact that we're already collecting iPads and the freshman class composition that Jeremy talked about. This is the best way to do it that we can figure, but that is something that's on our mind.
What's the, class size exiting versus incoming?
It is bigger.
Or bigger class coming in?
Then, by my numbers, and
They're,
actually,
I don't have it right now.
okay, so Rich is almost the same.
almost the same.
Okay.
What devices are the eighth graders now that are gonna become freshmen? What are they using?
They're using iPads right now.
Okay, they turn those in at the end of the year or?
Yep, and those will, nothing changes on that plan. They give us their iPad back, we wipe it and get it ready for an incoming fourth year.
Gotcha. No, I'm confident the kids would figure it out faster than I would, but the transition from iPad to Chromebook, seamless, hopefully.
We're gonna find out. They're already, again, that's another natural thing, is they already transitioned from iPad to MacBook. They're expecting something different. They're expecting to go to something in a clamshell laptop form factor with a full keyboard. This will, I don't expect it to be that different.
Does anybody on the board has a question about what a Chromebook is? You know, can maybe answer that? I know when Tracy asked that question, what exactly is a Chromebook? She had never seen one before.
Maybe I think I know, but maybe I really don't. So I'll ask.
Sure. So it's similar to a MacBook or a Windows in that it is a laptop. It is a computer. It opens like this and you can type out like this. The difference is it only runs Chrome. So this is a MacBook and you can run a Mac operating system and you can do Safari, Edge, Firefox, or Chrome. And most of our students use Chrome most of the day. So this is a device that just does Chrome.
And with that, I think the other point worth noting for the board is, I believe Rich said this at the end of the tech community, this isn't the last time we'll have a chance to discuss this. So it's not like we have to figure it all out right this moment. But I would encourage you, if you have questions, to get involved. It's not a small thing, it's a pretty big thing. So I think it's good that we are able to speak to it. Real quick, from speaking point from the board, what's the resale value of a MacBook right now? Ballpark.
Right now, if we sell back a MacBook Air in perfect condition, grade A, it's between $300 and $350, I believe,
And the entry point of the Chromebook that you're looking at?
around $300.
Okay, so that breeds an excellent and normal question. If we're gonna sell a classroom set for $350, how come we're gonna get 60% coverage? Maybe you wanna speak to it a little bit, I'm sure you're gonna hold some back and.
Yeah, we have to hold some back because we don't want to put freshmen in a bind if they find something that they need one for. So that's part of our pilot plan, is keep a cart for journalism, art, music, that'll live in the tech department, that can come, roll a cart down, have students log in and do Apple things that are beyond just Chrome. So we're not selling all of the MacBooks back at a 1-for-1 ratio. It'll be sell back some, buy for the freshmen, and then use that info to make it easy.
Predicting some questions you might run into as board members.
So the 1-1 lease, that expires at the end of next school year? Okay, so if we can get $300 to $350 for that MacBook today, what do we get 1 year from now, roughly?
I don't have the numbers top of mind, but it'll be less. But at that point, we'll be, I mean, if we change nothing, we would just enter a new Apple lease and do the same thing we've been doing. And that plan has been working very well. I don't expect any issues. So it would just be a shift of, okay, how much Chrome we're gonna buy, how much Apple we're gonna buy. We're also not getting rid of Apple K-8. We're not getting rid of Apple in the hands of board members and teachers and administrators. I mean, we're still gonna have a strong Apple presence.
I just have a couple of questions again, and then this is kind of down the road, but I would be really curious to know again what other districts are using. And then also, again, at some point, if kids are going on to technical school or into a 4-year, what is it that they're typically seeing, right? Are they gonna be savvy with a Chrome and because they've had it all 4 years, and then they get to a university setting, obviously they buy their own. But, you know, I guess I just want to make sure, and then what are our neighboring districts doing? What are they using? Because again, at some point, I feel like we've always had the one-to-one, we've been kind of cutting edge. But I just want to make sure that we're not somehow going backwards.
So,
Go ahead.
okay, so one of the things that Rick asked us to do was to give him our questions so that they could come prepared when they do their presentation.
And so, I mean, I think I asked a couple of those questions also to have answers for when they do their presentation. I think it's important that all of those questions get sent so that we have a comprehensive picture. But we gave them quite a few questions like that at the meeting.
Yes.
I'll get on board.
The first question that you asked, Jen, is one that we talked about at the committee meeting. Like, what are other school districts doing? And Neil, do you want to speak to what you shared at the committee meeting on that topic?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been in conversation with neighboring districts, Ford, Edgerton, Evansville, have been very helpful in this process, and other kind of regional. And also there's some statewide chat as well, where a lot of tech staff will ask that kind of question. Hey, what are you guys doing for phones? What are you doing for internet? The device question comes up a lot. Our neighboring districts are mostly Chromebook, and they've been doing it for quite a while. When we first chose our device, we went with Apple. Chromebooks have come a long way since then. It was considered much less. It's really come a long way. The device that you've been having in your hand today is much, much better than it was 2 years ago. Some of the MacBook, but that might be okay. So most people around us are doing Chromebook. The people that have stayed Apple are predominantly on iPads, which is another device we have considered. We've talked about that at the committee level and our focus group level. But Chromebook really emerged as the device that staff, students, that everybody wanted to try. We want to give it a go.
I want to just touch base on something that John said, and this is just a cheerleading and encouragement. When we look at that leaks, there's a very strategic time when to refresh. I understand that right now the logic is to play that last year out and gain that equity. I would really encourage you to take a look at the equity versus the resale value right now. I think you might find that having to refresh is not the most money and keep the investment for the district at the lowest. Could be wrong. I would encourage those numbers to crunch you. You ask if the numbers that you seek are available, you can find those, like whether it be worth a year from now.
And we did have one or two vendors put some numbers in front of us about what they will be worth a year from now. I just don't have them on my head right now. I think the only issue if we were to refresh right now is we would either go right back to MacBooks and then kind of commit without asking and answering the question, or we would do a wholesale change, which came up a couple of different times. Hey, why don't we just switch everyone, next year? But it didn't seem like a wise thing to do. So we want to take it one step at a time. We want to try this and then bring people back.
Just as long as you're looking at it, and another option I would present to you is leave the high school and look at refreshing K-8. So we don't lose the equity of K-8 while we figure out the high school. But I'll let you guys do the numbers. Question mark. Any other questions on this topic? And again, this will be discussed further. This isn't the only opportunity to have this discussion. All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
That's it for those only agenda. Sorry.
one agenda, okay, we will roll on. HR committee report, Rick.
Okay, thanks, Joe. The HR committee met last week on May 20th. First item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on the 2024-25 support staff FTE. The administration has done a review of the support staff needs for the upcoming year. Needs change annually due to enrollment and student needs. For the upcoming year, the administration is recommending reduction of 1.52 special ed staff due to changes in student IEP needs and the addition of 3 interns. The administration is also recommending keeping the current support staff bank of 2 FTE. This allows support staff to be added if student needs change. Then the new staff will be brought to the next regular board meeting for hiring approval. With the other support staff numbers outlined in the attached memo, which is up on the screen, the HR committee is recommending the total support staff for the 24-25 school year of 176.76 FTE. Chris or Rich, did you have anything to add to that?
I'll just highlight a couple things. Rick had shared that with the different positions that are laid out in the memo, and the memo is up on the screen too, there are 2 positions where we're recommending, the administration and the HR committee are recommending a change. You can see with the instructional support staff, a decrease of 1.52 FTE. That the staffing for instructional support is very much based on student needs. And with some students graduating that have some one-to-one support, we won't have as much need for as many people in those positions as we have for this current year. So it's about a 1.5 FTE reduction there. And then with the interns, the board approved 3 intern positions at this time last year for this current school year. And those are split up by semester, so it's 3 FTE, but it's 3 in the first semester and then another 3 in the second semester. We ended up adding more intern positions later on, where, correct me if I'm wrong, but we ended up with 9. We ended up this year with 9 intern positions. But it's reading here as an increase because it's an increase over what the board initially approved. So it would be increasing from 3 up to 6 for this coming year.
I misspoke in my report. I have a typo in my notes. I apologize. The total FTE for the coming year proposed is 165.76.
And then Rick also spoke to that bank, the 2 FTE as a bank, and especially for new board members, we build that in so that if we get into September and maybe a student enrolls in our district that needs a one-to-one paraprofessional to work with them, we don't have to wait until the next board meeting, get board approval, and then try to hire somebody for that position. It gives us a little wiggle room throughout the year, but the board would still approve those hires. We still would bring those hires to the board through a staffing report if we need to use them during the year, but it gives us a little bit of wiggle room to meet student needs. Chris, anything?
No, nothing.
I'll move to approve that 165.76 support FTE outlined in the memo be implemented for the 24-25 year.
Second.
Thank you. Jen's motion is seconded by John, as you just heard, to approve 165.76 as our support staff FTE for this coming school year. Questions? All in favor of approval of that motion, please signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that clearly passes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion and possible action on 2024-25 staff compensation. One of the district's focus areas in our strategic plan is to maintain a competitive compensation and benefits package for all employee groups using market comparables. While working to determine these packages, the district balances the need to offer competitive wages and benefits while remaining financially stable. To that end, the administration and HR committee are proposing the increases outlined in the attached memo. The total support staff group adjustment would be a 3.5% increase, which includes the base adjustments outlined in the memo and their corresponding step adjustments. The administration and committee are also recommending the creation of longevity pay for both support staff and teaching staff. The committee and administration feel that these proposed longevity pay amounts are important in showing appreciation from most veteran staff for their many years of service to the district. These longevity pay amounts will be given to support staff annually, the year after they have reached the highest hourly rate for their position type, and will be in addition to their annual market adjustments. The longevity amounts will vary between 20 and 35 cents per hour, depending on the position. And those are outlined in the attached matrices in board docs. Teaching staff who have reached the final step of the matrix would receive an annual increase of $500 in addition to the negotiated base wage settlement. Currently, there are 2 instructional support staff members and 2 administrative assistants who have reached the final step of their matrices and 24 members of the professional teaching staff. Chris or Rich, do you have anything to add to that one?
Just that there are a number of attachments outlined in board documents, board docs that show the standalone support staff hourly rates, along with the seasonal, occasional, temporary employee rates effective for July 1st of 24. And then there's the instructional support staff matrix, as well as the administrative assistant matrix. And our template, if approved, we'll be sharing out with staff here before the end of the school year.
Just FYI, we have 2 separate issues here, so please make your motion succinct we gotta deal with them separately, so.
Yeah, I think I was gonna share that, and, in the, salary changes memo, it's the support staff compensation memo and the seasonal, occasional, and temporary employee rates. The changes, especially on the temporary and occasional and seasonal rates, the positions where there's a change, it's written in blue and it has listed what the current year is and what the new rate would be. And then there was one thing that I wanted to highlight on that. Let me pull that document up. Marcy, if you can put the seasonal and occasional list on there. One of the things that you'll say that you may have a question on is, how far down that is. Oh, you know what it's, give me just a second here. Chris, I'm trying to find the one that has the change in the, going from a salary to an hourly position.
It's outlined in the memo.
Is the memo the best place to find that?
Beginning of the second page, you'll see right at the bottom of the box or the table.
Oh, yeah, on the bottom of the first page of the memo, there's a computer tech level 2 position, and it has the 23-24 starting rate not applicable, and then it has a hourly starting rate for 24-25. The reason that it's not applicable for this year is that that's a position that's switching from a salaried position to an hourly rate position to meet a change in the federal guidelines. So it's a requirement that we need to make that change because of January 1st, the federal guidelines are going to change. So we computed what the salary would compute to on an hourly rate, and then had an increase for the coming on that what that hourly rate would have been for the coming year.
Sorry.
Overall, it's a 3.5% increase for the group. We know that some members in the group receive a higher percent increase than others. It's not 3.5% across the board for everyone, but it is overall a 3.5% increase for that employee group.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the 2024-25 support staff proposed hourly rates, the 24-25 seasonal, occasional, and temporary employee rates, and the 24-25 support staff wages as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Rick's motion is seconded by Jen. As you just heard him outline there for the proposed changes to our support staff hourly rates, and then the seasonal, occasional, temporaries, and support staff wages. Questions from anyone? All in favor of that motion, of approving that motion, please signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? That clearly passes.
And then I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 staff longevity pay plan as presented.
Second. Jen's motion is seconded by John to approve our 24-25 staff longevity pay plan. Does anyone have questions? Rich?
There is one thing that I want to make sure that the board members are alert to, and we talked about this in committee. This is in place for, the longevity pay is in place for the 3 employee groups that are listed there, for our instructional support staff, admin assistants, and for our teachers. And it's designed because with our current system, each of those groups has a final step on the matrix. If you think of the steps and lanes system, once an employee reaches that final step, they don't have any more step increases. They still would get any increase on the base wage that goes to everyone in that group and spread across that matrix. So it's building in something that's new to the system, and it's something that we would continue to look at each year on the amount of that increase, both on the hourly rate for our hourly staff and on the salary increase for salaried staff, our teaching staff. And it's in large part because we do want to make sure that our employees at all parts of their service to us have competitive wages. And if there wasn't some type of longevity pay, it wouldn't be long. And we're getting close to that point now where the veteran folks who are at that level, where they've reached the last step, are still competitive with other districts we compare to. But if they don't continue to see some type of step increase, if you will, that they would fall out of whack with some of our competing districts. And then it becomes a balance of what that amount would be. And I know that in conversations with some folks in those groups, they would like that amount to be higher, and we balance the amount that we build in for that longevity pay with our available resources. And it's something, again, that we would always want to revisit each year.
All right, motion on the floor is to approve the 24-25 staff longevity pay plan as presented. Other questions? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That clearly passes.
Okay, that's all I had.
All righty, thank you much. Another committee
Hold on
report.
a second. Who seconded that? We didn't catch.
I think it was John.
That was John. John, seconded by John. Okay. Okay, now we're gonna move on to 6. The Finance and Transportation and Safety folks had a joint meeting, and I guess we'll have John kick off the first part of that discussion.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, the Finance and Transportation Committees held a joint meeting on Wednesday, May 22nd. We had 3 items on the agenda. Those 3 are also on tonight's agenda. I'll summarize, and I believe Ross or Rich will have maybe some stuff to add as well. First up was the 2024-25 bias seat program. It was the admin and committee's recommendation to increase the bias seat fees from by $10 per trip. The yearly fee for one-way riders is going from $130 to $140, and for a round trip rider, the fee is going from $260 to $280. The family max this year is $560. Next up was the 2024-25 school fees. This is also part of tonight's recommended motion. There are only a few changes and additions to the fees. These changes can be found in board docs, but do include the following. Lacrosse was added for high school students. This has a $75 proposed fee. This is separate from Family Max plus per member co-op fees, as we discussed in a prior board meeting. There was a slight change in device insurance based on the device and student grade, and 2 small changes with the nutrition side of things. Adult lunches are going up from $4.85 to $5 per lunch, and a carton of milk is going up 5 cents from 50 to 55 cents per carton. Again, these changes are part of tonight's recommended motion. That's my update. Ross, Rich?
Not much to add. I think you summarized the main changes. Just a quick highlight on the device insurance that we did change based on level. During the year this year, we made a change to the K-3 take-home plan for devices, and that was eliminated. So not only are we not taking them home, we're seeing a much more positive breakage rate on those that are coming back in that condition. So we're proposing reducing the student fee for device insurance from $40 down to $20 for next year. The high school MacBook insurance will go from $75 to $80 for the opposite reason. And the proposed plan we discussed earlier this evening for Chromebooks, the device insurance would be starting at $20 for next year for the pilot. John mentioned the other changes to the fee schedule, so I won't repeat those.
Did Michael have anything to add?
Sure.
Looked like you were trying at the bit there.
Well, I was just coming off in case you had questions.
Yeah.
So I'm just proposing the increase to the adult lunches from $4.85 to $5. We're offering a few more choices this year for our staff. There's an online form they can use and gives them a lot more choice. And then with the milk prices, we just want to make sure that because we own our own milk coolers, we want to make sure that we have the money there to help pay for the gaskets and the upkeep of those milk coolers. So hence the increase on the milk carton price.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 fee schedule as presented.
Second.
All right, Rick's motion is seconded by Jennifer to approve the 24-25 fee schedule as we just talked about, and it's sort of comprehensive. It covers the student fees, the changes to the nutrition side, that they outlined.
And buy a seat.
And the buy seat, yep, it's covering all the bases there. Questions from anyone? All in favor of approval of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, John B.
Yep, last up was a discussion on last year's facility use fees. Although there's not any board action tonight, it will still be good to hear about how things have gone the first year of these overdue changes. I believe by now we have all had feedback in some capacity. There are no recommended changes to the fee schedule at this time, but we will be, it will be something we can bring back to the board if it's necessary at any time. So, either of you guys, just a little feedback on.
Just a quick highlight, the reason we're bringing this up for discussion again is, prior to my coming here, I know there was a much longer discussion about implementation of the schedule. And one of the board motions that night it was approved was to put a stay on the indoor tournament fees for those using our facilities. And that was set to increase based on board action last year on July 1st of 24 to the original proposed amount of 1,000 per tournament.
So it's an update to the board that we'd be implementing the fee schedule that was put in place a year ago without any changes to what was approved a year ago. And we'd be communicating that out to the main groups that utilize our facilities. There's no.
So
no
just to
action.
be clear, the grace period that we did give that group will implement the new fee schedule as of July 1, is that
That's
correct?
correct. That's correct.
Just want to make sure to clarify that.
Hey, Rich, can you touch on, I mean, one of the things we talked at the committee was, you know, the initial shell shock of some of these changes and some of the emotions that were brought. But in reality, once the dust settled, it didn't seem like it really had much of an impact. I mean, is that?
I think the groups.
To the groups.
The groups that had been utilizing our facilities in the past continue to utilize our facilities for their big events. The main groups that have the weekend or the one-day event where they're needing to pay to help us recoup a portion of our costs to clean and to prepare for the event have been the show choir and band for their large invitational events, and then the Milton Youth Basketball, Milton Monsters, Crossfire. Those are the main ones. Those groups, and they continue to use our facilities and to host wonderful events that are great for our students, and also bring in a considerable amount of money to their groups.
I think there's another piece to this that Stephen Shantz shared at the committee meeting that's important to bring out. We certainly focus on the financial piece and the dollars that are attached to each of the tiers and the groups and whatnot. But what Stephen has shared that I think I could kind of summarize is that this agreement now really delineates everyone's responsibilities, and it has created a clear understanding for a group of sorts that of what the expectation level is for the group and from the building and grounds folks. If you're going to use our facilities, these are the services that come with whatever kind of a fee is associated with that. And Stephen said in his conversations with groups using it, it has helped that conversation a lot, because now it's very clear what the expectation level is on both sides of that discussion. And he shared that that's been very positive in all the discussions.
The consistency that having the same guidelines at all of our facilities and one person that folks work with if they want to utilize our facilities has worked really well for both us and for our outside groups.
Okay,
That's all I got.
all righty, thank you. Thanks, Ross. All right, we will roll down to 7 of new business. A there is action on 24-25 new open enrollment applications. Rich?
Yeah, there's a memo from me to the board that's listed in board docs, and every May, the board approves new open enrollment applications for the coming year. So these are open enroll in and open enroll out. If someone has already been approved for open enrollment in or out from previous years, they're not included in this memo. So these are new open enroll ins and outs. And just an overview of the open enroll ends, you can see that for 4K through 12, there are 86 new non-resident students who have applied to open enroll for next year. Of those 86, there are 13 who are currently in our district who have moved outside our district and have applied to remain in. Does that make sense to folks? They were attending as resident students. Now they're non-resident students because during the course of this year, they've kind of moved outside of the district, but they want to continue going to school here. We do recommend denying one applicant because of habitual truancy, which would leave us with 85 new non-resident applicants recommended for approval. And that one recommended denial is a student that open enrolled in during the year, and during the year we don't bring approval for those to the board. The board approves the new ones at the start of the year. So that person was approved, they open enrolled during the year, but over the course of the year their attendance was at a level where they were considered habitually truant. And we have, as a school district, the authority from the state to deny an open enrollment request in situations like that, and we are recommending that. As comparison to those 86 new applications for N this year, last year there were 80 new non-resident students who applied, and when students apply, they don't always attend. Sometimes students will apply for open enrollment in a couple of different districts, or they'll end up staying at their own district. So of those 80 last year, 53 ended up enrolling in our schools for September. So what the board is approving tonight, or would be approving tonight, would be accepting the applications for those 85 students. And for open enroll out, for 4K through 12, there's 54 new resident students who have applied to open enroll out. Of those 54, there are 13 who are currently enrolled in other districts who moved into our district and applied to open enroll out. So kind of the opposite of the open enroll ins situation. So we're recommending approving all 54 of those applications. And for comparison to those 54 applications for open enrolling out this year, there were 70 last year that applied for new open enroll out, and of those 70, 54 ended up enrolling outside of our district in September of this past year.
Just to clarify for folks, we have no discretion to deny an open enroll out.
Correct, but we still, our process still is to.
Understood, but yeah. Just so folks are clear as well.
I'll move to approve the recommendation for the 2024-25 new open enrollment application as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Jen's motion is seconded by Rick to approve the 24-25 new open enrollment applications as they were presented. Does anyone have questions? All in favor of approval, please signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That clearly passes. All right, thank you for that update, Rich. Miscellaneous A is our staffing report.
I make a motion to approve the staffing report.
Second.
Thank you. Rick's motion seconded by John for our staffing report. Questions on it? All in favor of approval, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Staffing report is presented. Meeting dates.
We have a couple of upcoming meetings. Our next regularly scheduled board meeting is on Monday, June 10th. The second Monday in June, and then we'll also have the second board meeting in June on Monday, June 24th. We have a negotiation session for our HR committee with the MEA tomorrow on May 29th at 4:15. That will be here in the PDC. We have a finance committee meeting on Tuesday, June 4th at 5:30. Followed up by the school board legal workshop, which is on Tuesday, June 4th at 6:30. Followed up by an expulsion hearing, which is on Tuesday, June 4th at 7:30. So all three of those on Tuesday, June 4th. Finance committee at 5:30, school board legal workshop at 6:30, expulsion hearing at 7:30. We have a curriculum committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, June 19th at 6 p.m. in the first floor conference room. And we have the two upcoming community focus groups that we spoke to. Both of those start at 6:30, one on Wednesday, June 12th, one on Wednesday, June 26th. And then we'll be reaching out to to schedule the data and survey data workshop at one of our upcoming regularly scheduled meetings.
What was the second to last date you mentioned before the focus group?
We had the curriculum committee meeting on Wednesday, June 19th at 6 p.m. And that's in the first floor conference room.
And I have it on good authority that the June meetings may include a treat. Stay tuned.
Dairy related.
It would likely be dairy related, as I've been told. All right, that's our regular agenda. We have an executive session scheduled, which we'll delineate here in a moment. We are not coming back to open session. So I would like to entertain a motion pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1985 sub 1 and sub E and 19.82 sub 1, which is deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. And our subject matter is a review of negotiations with MEA and next steps. So moved. Thank you. That was Rick motioning and seconded by Jennifer. We will roll call vote it. Annette?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Joe is yes. Rick? Yes. Jennifer?
Yes.
And Ed?
Yes.
6-0. We are in executive session. Thank you for joining us.
Really long.
Thank you, Jeff.